Hey everyone, it's me Bo, back on the Film Scene Investigation channel. I hope everyone is doing well. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the 1999 Australian movie Two Hands. I'm a big fan of Heath Ledger, the late actor who sadly no longer with us. I've seen many of his films throughout the years, but Two Hands, this one in particular, I'd never seen before. It'd been on my radar for some time, and just never got around to watching it until now. But before we get into it, guys, as always, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Two Hands from 1999 was written and directed by the filmmaker Gregory Jordan and starred the late Heath Ledger. Actress Rose Byrne played the love interest in the film, and the legendary Aussie actor Brian Brown was supporting. So this was one of Ledger's earlier film projects, and I believe his first in a starring role. So given Ledger's limited acting ability, I wasn't really expecting too much. The film began abruptly when we saw Ledger's character, Jimmy, getting dragged out of a car as he pleaded for his life. Brian Brown's character, Pando, a small-time local gangster, had ordered the men to kill Jimmy. At first we were unaware exactly what had gone on, and obviously it was a kind of confusing situation. Nevertheless, it was clear that Jimmy had messed up big time. He was battered, he was bruised, and begging Pando for his life to be spared. From there, the film then went back and showed how all of Jimmy's problems started. Ledger's character, Jimmy, was a pretty laid-back guy. He had a job as a doorman and basically just wanted an opportunity to make some serious money. He was tired of the same old routine. He wanted more, he wanted change, and I guess the most important thing is he wanted success. And so Jimmy befriended Pando, the local mob boss and club owner. After some gentle persuasion, Pando would offer Jimmy a job, a simple job, to deliver $10,000 to a woman in Bondi Beach, no questions asked. Jimmy, thinking it was a simple task, decided to accept the offer, thinking that this could potentially lead to a new job for him. So Jimmy went on his way with the 10K, but when he arrived at the address and knocked on the door, he got no answer. Thinking that no one was home, Jimmy decided to wait on the nearby beach for the woman to return. Things then got complicated when the 10K got stolen by a couple of street kids on the beach. Jimmy was distracted, his back was turned as he was splashing around in the sea. He had no idea. And the next thing he realizes, what's gone on, and then he's rushing around asking passers-by, did you see anything? Did you see anything? It was a funny scene, and you felt for the character because immediately, with the money going missing, he was going to be a wanted man. The word quickly spread about Jimmy's predicament, and obviously Pando wanted blood. And Pando felt betrayed. He had offered this guy, Jimmy, a complete nobody, an opportunity, and in his eyes, Jimmy just ran off with the money. Like, what the hell? With Jimmy being a wanted man and knowing that Pando wouldn't listen to his excuses, Jimmy sought refuge with his friend Deirdre, played by actress Susie Porter. While hiding out, Jimmy decided that the best way to solve this problem was to rob a bank and then repay the money he owed to Pando. Let's talk about the actors here for a moment. Hands down, the actor Brian Brown was brilliantly cast as the low-level gangster Pando. You know, when I think about it, he really was the most memorable thing about this film. He brought his natural charm and charisma to the role, and yeah, he felt believable as this no-nonsense Aussie thug. I've been a fan of Brian Brown for many years now, ever since I saw him in the Tom Cruise 1987 movie Cocktail. He was great in Cocktail, and he was great here in Two Hands, a real highlight for the film. When it comes to Heath Ledger, I thought he was fine in the lead role, but it wasn't anything special. He was a great actor, and films like The Dark Knight or Brokeback Mountain showed that. It showed his talent. But in Two Hands, while Ledger's performance was serviceable, I found the character to be quite mediocre and predictable. Understandably, back in 1998 when this movie was filmed, Ledger was very new to the industry, so with the limited experience he had, yeah, overall he did a good job. I guess I just wasn't wowed by his character. Actress Rose Byrne played Alex, Jimmy's love interest in the film. Now, while I thought her character was pretty redundant, the actress did have some good on-screen chemistry with Ledger. Yeah, the film definitely leaned into Ledger's heartthrob status by adding this romantic subplot. While this definitely was not a romantic comedy, some scenes between Alex and Jimmy kind of felt a bit like that. So yeah, Rose Byrne, good in her role, but kind of pretty much irrelevant to the main story. You know, I thought the movie balanced the dark humour and drama quite well. It wasn't overly comedic, nor was it overly violent. And you know, the heist scene at the end of the film, you know, was a good example of how the filmmakers used the comedy within a serious situation. Jimmy and another gunman swarm this local bank downtown and hold it up for cash. You had Jimmy, who was completely kind of paranoid with his shotgun pointing at the customers while his accomplice was grabbing the cash. The next thing, he falls over the counter, knocks himself out, and Jimmy's just there with a gun. Like, what do I do next? I mean, it's arguable, but I thought it was probably the funniest part of the film. And yeah, I did not see that coming. Oh man. Yeah, it was funny. It was funny. I mean, Jimmy's there like, don't move, wake up, you know. Now, in terms of the movie's soundtrack, I have to say, I really thought it was a great collection of songs that fit perfectly with the film's high-octane visuals. It was a nice mixture of contemporary jazz and ethereal 90s indie music. Bands like Powderfinger, The Reels and Crowded House all contributed tracks to the project. I guess I was expecting a more kind of generic soundtrack, but on the contrary, a lot of effort had gone into the musical side of things here. And I'm glad that was the case, because a decent soundtrack can really leave its mark with an audience if the effort is put in. Also, there were some very interesting and dynamic visuals littered throughout the film. Initially, I thought that we were going to get some dark, gritty aesthetic, but as the film progressed, I was impressed with the vibrant colour palette that was on display. Two Hands was a small, independent project with a limited budget. There, of course, were some limitations, but that clearly did not hinder the filmmakers from trying their best to deliver a cinematic experience. So credit to the cinematographer Malcolm McCulloch, whose input made a huge difference to the movie's overall quality. And so, dislikes for Two Hands, 1999. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the whole Jimmy's dead brother subplot. So, early on in the film, we discovered that Jimmy had a dead brother, played by actor Steve Wilder. There were several scenes in the movie where the brother would suddenly appear from beyond the grave, watching over Jimmy. You know, it was a interesting concept, and I appreciated the filmmaker's ambition. But taking a step back, the dead brother's appearance really did hurt the film. Not only did I think the whole supernatural subplot was executed poorly, but I also thought the actual makeup effects were pretty subpar. Of course, this movie had a limited budget, so I don't want to be too critical. Still, I thought the brother could have at least been lit better. If you have poor makeup effects, you know, a competent filmmaker should try and use the shadows to their advantage and hide the issues. Here, it was like the heavy lighting only made things worse. And after actually doing some research for this review, I discovered that there were actually more scenes involving the dead brother, but they were ultimately edited out before the movie's release. So yeah, a smart decision there by the director, because ultimately the dead sibling subplot really was the weakest part of the film. Another dislike I have with Two Hands was the melodramatic ending when Alex showed up at Jimmy's apartment unannounced. When I first saw this ending, I was like, no, don't do that. Because, you know, it was so predictable. You could just see it coming a mile away. Jimmy arrives at his door, and I was just thinking, Alex is so going to be in his apartment waiting for him. And then bingo, she was. I don't know. It just felt very cliche, even for a late 90s movie. You know, it made me think, did the studio get involved and, you know, demand a happy ending or something? You know, prior to all of this, there was a showdown between Pando and Jimmy. And when I think about it, yeah, once Jimmy left the club, the movie really should have ended right there and then. With how some of the aspects in the film were quite unique, the whole happy ending felt very unoriginal, and yeah, it was a letdown. And so, ratings for Two Hands, 1999. Going to be rating this movie a solid 5 out of 10. You know, I thought Two Hands was a solid 90 minutes of zany entertainment, and yeah, it was worth watching. In some ways, the film reminded me of the English gangster movie Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, because the two shared that kind of similar motif. And yeah, as I mentioned, the film did a good job in combining the drama of the seedy Australian underworld with the comedic energy coming from the actors. Yeah, the movie didn't break boundaries or anything like that, but it was an intriguing plot with some interesting characters and dark humour mixed in, which kept my interest throughout. And when people talk about Heath Ledger and his career, they tend not to mention this movie. I guess it kind of floats under the radar for most people, and I can kind of see why. There's nothing particularly wrong with this film, but then again, there's no real standout moments besides the heist scene, I guess. Almost as if there was a little bit too much attention on the style, and yeah, it was kind of an imbalance really. There needed to be a little bit more going on, but I don't know, it was an easy watch, and I'd still say if you're a Heath Ledger fan and you haven't seen this one yet, it's a must watch.